And that goes on like that. You're a daddy.
What?
How does
Says
it
who?
feel to have peed out a little babe?
Did not feel good.
Yeah. It's like a
Yes.
real big kidney stone.
Yes. No, it
Wow.
feels great. Feels nice. It's nice to have Mr. Henry with us, aka Hank,
Good, Hank.
aka Good Hank.
Welcome back
He's
to
doing well.
you, and
Hello.
welcome back to the audience, to the
Here
Hill
we are.
King podcast, the only podcast on the internet where one of the hosts just had a little baby boy.
Yes. Also welcome to 2024.
Hey, it's our first record with you being postpartum
Pardon. Pardon. Yes, that's correct.
and it being post year of 2023.
Yes, sir.
We're in a new year, new me. I'm in a new corner of a room
Yeah, dude.
because I just kind of can't seem to figure. So that's what's going on with
I was gonna
me.
say,
That's
what's the
the new
deal?
news with me. A lot of big stuff going on in my life too,
Uh-huh.
life
Yeah.
changes and such.
Big, exciting life changes. How is your sleep?
My sleep,
Yeah, how's your sleep going?
it's sound. I sleep
Yes.
like a little
Like a baby? Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
How's
Yeah.
your sleep? Probably not great, right?
Actually, it's not too bad at the moment. We're still, just a couple of weeks out from him making his appearance. So, uh, it's not, we're not, zombies yet, but we fear the worst is yet to
Good.
come. So he's sleeping well, but we're cautiously optimistic because we know
Yeah.
it's just going to get worse. But yeah, we're groovy right now.
You were just telling me about how he pooped up the side of his back right before the
Yeah, dude. I
record.
changed his diaper and then yes, essentially that's what happens. Like, as soon as I got him zipped back up into his onesie, I heard a fart and I was like, that better not have been not a fart. And then I picked him up and then already I could tell onesie was wet with
And it
liquid poo
was
on the
was
backs.
not a fart. And this
I
episode
know.
is sponsored by Liquid Poo.
Liquid poo.
Oh, my
Use code
dogs.
GH.
Hold on. Dogs, shut the fuck up. Hey. See, with dogs you can do that. With a kid, you can't tell them shut the fuck up
Well,
until they're older, I guess. Or maybe
yeah.
now you can. They won't understand. Won't traumatize them at all, right?
Yeah, you can get him before he understands English, I think. There's like a little bit of a grace period, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's been studies done that kind of
Uh-huh.
maybe say the alternative there. But
Yes.
give it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why people have two kids usually. You
Hmm.
try stuff out with the first one. That's kind of like the trial run of
Uh-huh.
sorts, and then the youngest or the second at least is generally the better of the
Yes.
two, at least
I
personally
agree.
speaking.
I agree. In orders of brothers, second ones are always better.
Yeah. I was gonna shout out the Bois podcast
Oh yeah, dude. Shout out to the
for
Bois guys.
inviting us to do their show and being so nice and gracious. I went on.
Yes.
Chris's wife went into labor like 2 hours after we recorded
Yeah.
episode 2 of season 2. So good timing
That
there
eve
since
that
since we had
evening.
a since we had Jeff on the show. Thanks to Jeff again, by the way, for being our first
Shout out to Jeff.
guest slash guest.
Yes, thank you, Jeff, for coming on. But yeah, after we recorded, Rachel and I went to get some wings, and then she came home and went into labor at like 10:45. We were asleep for like 15 minutes, and then our
Yeah.
water broke. It was wild.
Well, and we were saying to Jeff beforehand, like, it's a good chance that this may not happen
Hmm.
because Rachel was about to pop. And then we also said to the Bois guys, might just be me on the show. Uh, and one of those two things ended up happening. But I went on the show. It was great. Apparently,
Yeah,
there are other King of the
I
Hill
listened.
podcasts. Oh, you did?
Yeah, it
Oh,
was pretty good.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have them on the show soon. Apparently there's beef amongst the King of the Hill podcast community.
Ooh.
They've had a few King of the Hill shows block them, which is so
Oh.
strange to me to hear.
Wow. It's not.
Bah.
It's not very neighborly.
Yeah, I know. That's not very Texas at all. But shout out
But
to
it's good to be
them.
back, man.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's been a little while. We're going to talk about King of the Hill, but before we do that, you know what we got to fucking do? Or did you forget?
Oh, remind me.
I think it's time for this week in Arlen.
Yes. Hey,
All right,
hey.
this week in Arlen is the segment of the show where we talk about what was going on in the world at the time of the airing of this particular episode. This episode in question aired on October 19th, 1997. You know how we always start it. We start it with a peek at the TV guide and a dragging publicly of the website TV Tango, who is still
Oh,
down and it still looks like shit. Don't they know how this is affecting my beautiful slideshow? But
yes.
we can still see what was going on. Any immediate standouts to you?
Yeah, this is a nice looking night of television. We've got Sabrina the Teenage Witch coming on at ABC, which I
Yeah.
loved. It's basically any iteration of Sabrina I'm a fan of.
Yeah, I was a big
Uh
Salem fan.
yeah, Talking Cat. That guy was
Talking
hilarious.
Cat, they used a puppet. They didn't do.
Yes.
Side note, complete tangent, Tangerino. I'm a tangerine.
He's plucking one.
I went and saw Wonka,
Oh, the new one? How
the
was it?
Willy Wonka movie.
Is that Timothy Chalamet?
Chimbies. Yeah. They made, well, first of all, they made Willy Wonka illiterate for some reason in the movie. No idea why.
Wow, ableist.
It's like a central plot point to the movie is that Willy Wonka doesn't know how to read,
Okay.
which seems like a strange choice, but okay. It was actually very fun, because me and my wife and her cousin, we went and saw it with like a bunch of her family members, and her cousin, shout out, Chloe, had weed gummies. So we sat in the back of the theater and just laughed at it because it was ridiculous and they made Willy Wonka illiterate. But on the note of puppets, I hate how in modern day movies, a lot of like big budget studio
Yeah.
movies, if they're using like a really basic animal nowadays, like a
Yeah.
dog, like in this movie, there was a dog and they CGI'd the fucking dog.
Dude, taking
That's,
the jobs from the dogs.
yeah, use a dog or use a puppet, man.
Yeah. Now,
Bring back Henson Studios.
Salem historically was just, yeah, puppet cat.
Yeah,
But
but
that was like one of
today,
my favorite parts of the show was how
yeah,
kind of like obviously
yeah,
like his arm, the way it would move and
yeah, they would have the
his
tight
motion
shot
was
where
so
it's just the
funny.
arm. Yeah, and I guarantee you today, if they were to remake Sabrina the Teenage Witch, they would make Salem fucking CGI.
Yeah.
So that was my soapbox
Yeah.
moment. I'm not a hero.
All right.
Chime
World's
off in the
Funniest.
comments.
World's
Yeah,
Funniest is on, which is always good. I will say there's a little bit of interesting call out here. There's Pinky and the Brain going on down on
we
the
got
WB.
we got a slide about it.
Yeah,
That
okay,
was a
cool.
big time. That's a an all-time Halloween special in my eyes.
Interesting. Well, there's also going to be some crossover with somebody who appears in this episode. He's going to be voicing two different cartoons on this night. But
Ah, see, you mentioned that there was some heavy hitting voice acting guest star,
yes,
and I specifically didn't search it up because I wanted to be
cool,
educated by my boy on this
sweet.
episode. Simpsons check though, Lisa
Yep.
Sachs, top tier episode. That's a good episode of The Simpsons. That is
Hmm.
a episode of The Simpsons. It is about the origin of how Lisa got her saxophone. There's a lot of
Interesting.
like retconning that goes on in that episode, but that's
Okay.
pretty typical for a show that has aired for that long. But very sweet episode, very good episode of The Simpsons. We also have, I don't know if you remember last week when we talked about Jenny, Jenny McCarthy's short-lived
Yeah.
sitcom,
Uh
already
huh.
showing repeats.
Whoa.
Not even a new episode, and somehow that's the only thing airing on
Interesting.
NBC. Like, what is that?
Interesting. Maybe they had news or something. I don't know. There could have been
Yeah,
a movie running before, like a long running movie before that.
yeah,
Who knows?
yeah. Who
Who knows?
knows?
TV Tango, help us out.
TV Tango, we need to have a talk about a lot of stuff, but we'll get to that later. We will move on here unless there's anything else that is standing out.
No,
to
I'd love to
you,
talk
my
about Pinky
friend.
and the Brain.
Yeah, not a lot on this, but I remember watching this special for the first time, and this is still a Halloween special that I'll go back to. I was a big Pinky and the Brain fan
I loved
growing
Pinky
up,
and the Brain.
and Animaniacs,
Yep.
those Warner Brothers cartoons were
So good.
excellent. Yeah,
Yes. So good. I loved
but
Pinky
yeah,
and the Brain. My freshman year of swim team, there was a another freshman swimmer. We were given a nickname, the Pinky and the Brain, by a senior on the team because we were
can I
Pinky and
guess
the
which one
Brainish, I
you were?
suppose. You already know. Yeah.
Yeah, my man. I love you, bud, but you wasn't Brain, was you?
No, dude, I'm not the brain. No. Big pinky energy over here.
Big Pinky. Honestly, if I had to pick one to be, I would want to be Pinky.
Of
So
course. Nice.
Pinky was the best. Moving on here though, this weekend was a heavy hitter at the box office, my guy. Bean, the Mr. Bean movie
A
came
Mr.
out
Bean
on
movie.
Friday. Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson was in the new Wonka movie.
Oh, really? Who did he
Yeah.
play?
He played like a priest that is like a chocoholic and he's accepting
Oh my
like
gosh.
bribes and protection
What?
from the chocolate cartel. It's a weird movie, man, but
Okay.
I kind of loved it. It was so bad. The music was so bad. Timmy Chimbies isn't the best singer in the world,
Yeah.
also,
Interesting.
but I loved it. Top tier. Top tier,
Okay.
kind of so bad it's good. Kind of like
Okay.
the Bean movie. I remember watching this movie and I like Mr. Bean, but like you don't need a
I
whole movie,
I
man.
can only tolerate so much bean.
Yeah, we don't need like an hour and a half of
I,
Bean.
yeah, that's a bit much bean, bruh.
But more importantly, this Friday, fucking I Know What You Did Last Summer came out.
Ooh.
Jennifer Love Hewitt
Mm.
was in my heart and mind in the 90s
Yep.
and always will be.
Classic 90s TV babe.
Yeah, heartthrob indeed. Number one song in the country was Something About the Way You Look Tonight, which took
Ah,
over Candle in the Wind. This was like we were in the throes of Princess Diana's death and everyone
yes.
being obsessed with what the fuck went on there. Of course, Candle in the Wind was the song that was dedicated to her. This was also on the album something about the way you look tonight. I think it may have also been about Princess Diana. Who knows?
Interesting. I'm not sure.
Yeah, my man Elton was really capitalizing on the
Yeah.
whole Diana thing.
I'm not big on the Elton lore of his catalog, but I do love Elton John.
Yeah, I feel like everyone loves Elton John. How do you not, right?
Exactly.
He's such a showman.
And if you don't get on out of
Get
here,
on, unsubscribe. Oh, well, don't unsubscribe. Just
don't
get out of
unsubscribe.
here.
Just yeah,
Yeah, tell your friends.
skip ahead.
Yeah, skip ahead. Yeah, still get the whole listen, though. Maybe just put it on mute. Go in the other room. Think about what you
Hmm.
did. But keeping it in the vein of music, uh,
Music
Nimrod by Green Day came out this week as well.
classique.
I'm not the biggest Green Day guy, but can still respect their catalog.
I like Green Day. I was I think in like sixth grade when American Idiot came out.
Yeah, I
And so
wasn't a huge fan of that song.
that was my initial entry to Green Day, and I originally I think remember thinking they were like a little bit kitschy, and it wasn't till like later on that I started going back into their old stuff, and I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, American
Uh,
Idiot was kind of later. This even
yeah,
was, I believe this was their fifth studio album. So this was
yeah,
even kind of late in their catalog. But yeah, like
mhm,
Dookie, that
yeah,
album's great. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it's
They're definitely great. Don't come for us, Green Day heads.
I mean, late Green Day today is kind of ass, but you can come for me for that. But
Yeah,
respect to their older stuff, you know?
yeah. You know, they're still rocking, so I'm gonna give them that.
Yeah, yeah, good for them. So yeah, that came out this week. Kind of also in the same vein of talking about Princess Diana, the number one book 4 weeks in a row, but including this week, was The Royals by Kitty Kelly, which
Ooh,
was just a book about the fucking royal family. And I have
interesting.
mentioned on the show my thoughts towards the royal family. And I will reiterate that I think that they are all goblin-faced, inbred fucking freaks.
Yeah. It's not a very pro monarchy podcast.
No, your boys from one of the Commonwealths, and we don't
Yeah.
like them fuckers.
Former
Uh,
former former colony member here
yeah,
south of the
yeah,
border.
1776 though.
We had a little slap fight about it.
There was the whole thing in
Shout
1776.
out to our British listeners. What up?
Yeah, we still love you. We brought up beans on toast in one of the last
Yeah,
episodes,
dude. We talk about beans all the time.
We are always talking about beans. I was just in Chicago, man. That's where the fucking bean is. You
English
know?
people love beans. That's the
They
joke.
do, and so does Chicago. Speaking of the English, it was Dumbledore, the second Dumbledore.
Dumbledore.
It was his 57th.
Oh my gosh.
Michael Gambon.
Oh my
R.I.P.
gosh.
He passed recently, I
I
believe.
was gonna say he passed pretty recently, if I
Yeah.
recall.
And
Yeah, R.I.P. to Dumbledore.
rounding it out with another famous birthday, it was our favorite Dick, his 52nd, John Lithgow of Third Rock from the Sun. We talk about the constant dick puns in the
Yep.
titles of Third Rock from the Sun. It was his 52nd B-Day on
Yeah.
this day.
I was looking for a dick pun in the Third Rock from the Sun this week, and I don't think Third Rock from the Sun was on this guide. That could be
Third Rock from the Pun, am I right?
oh, got him. Yeah, it wasn't on this week. I don't know if this is when they started to come off air, or I don't know. Who
No,
knows?
I want to say that they aired like into the 2000s.
Maybe they got bumped to a different slot or
Yeah.
something like that.
We'll check in next week. We'll check
Yeah,
in. We'll see if they're back. Maybe it was a late, because
we're
it's only
keeping an eye
episode
out,
3. Yeah, maybe that season started a little later
keeping an eye out for Dick.
than the Fox slot. We're always keeping an eye out for Dick. But yeah, that will do it for the segment. That'll do it for this week in Arlen.
Heck yeah,
I think that we ought to get into this here
let's do it, dude.
episode.
Let's do it.
Arrowhead, you are mowing the lawn. You are a dad now. You've got the
I'm
jean
starting it up.
shorts. You've got the Kirkland sneakers on, and you're out on a Sunday morning to mow the fucking lawn.
Yeah, dude. Let's cut it. Let's cut it nice and clean. Yeah, season 2, episode 3, Arrowhead. Aired on 10/19/97 again, of course. Our quick blurb is after Hank finds an arrowhead in his lawn, Peggy gives an archaeologist permission to have an
To
archaeological
enter
dig in their yard,
her. To
to enter their yard.
to enter her.
Yes.
Peggy kind of wanted to fuck this guy, I
A
think.
little bit. It gets a little spicy, but this
This
one
guy
is
was he was definitely trying to cuck Hank.
he definitely was.
The
It's
theme.
yeah. Uh writers are Mike Judge, Greg Daniels, and Jonathan Abel, Aibel, Abel. I should probably learn how to say that better. And then
Yeah.
directed, of course, by longtime director Wesley Archer and Clay Hall, who has got plenty of King of the Hill chops underneath his belt. Um, Before we get into it, I'll do a little bit of teasing about. We talked about Pinky and the Brain earlier. This is going to be one of the first episodes of King of the Hill to feature cartoon voice acting legend Maurice LeMarche. LeMarche? LeMarche?
Don't
LeMarche?
doesn't ring a
Yeah.
bell. I would say
S-
LeMarche.
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 So so the Pinky and the Brain connections. He was the brain for 65 episodes
Ah,
of Pinky and the Brain.
he was Brain?
He's Brain.
That's
He
awesome.
is in 29 episodes of The Simpsons. He's in 126 episodes of Futurama as Kiff primarily, and a
Cool.
lot of
Hell
other
yeah.
background characters.
That's awesome.
32 eps of Rick and Morty, 50 episodes of Disenchantment. So he's in a lot of the modern stuff.
I like
30
Disenchantment. Underrated.
30 yeah, Disenchantment's pretty good. 35 different eps of Animaniacs, and then
As
he's in
probably as Brain, right?
yeah, Brain and other background characters, it looks like.
Various.
And then, he's guested on a lot of things. His voice acting career goes back all the way, I think, to the late 80s.
Damn.
Um, yeah, he's in a lot of stuff. all your favorite cartoons. He's had a little bit of. He's in Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law,
Oh,
23
god
eps.
damn. Just checking
Yeah,
off all of my favorites, brother.
104 eps of Space Goofs. I don't know. Did you ever
Space
watch
goof or
Space
goose?
Goofs? Goofs. Goof.
Goose, like a honk honk?
Goof. Goof.
Oh, not familiar. I only know
Yeah.
Space Goose.
13, 13 eps of Johnny Bravo. 30. You'll love
Damn,
this, Brad. 35 eps of Hey Arnold.
dude, these are,
Yeah.
you've named multiple shows that I have tattooed on my body.
Yeah. And you don't know about Maurice LeMarche. He's also in 17 episodes of Queer Duck, which I have not
Oh,
seen, but yeah, very, very prolific voice actor. He's all over
nice.
Cartoon Network. He's all over WB. He's got some Disney
Wow.
chops
We
in
got a
here.
legend in the house.
Yeah, and he's going to be playing the archaeological professor, kind of
Nice.
the villain of this episode. But yeah, keep a lookout, keep an eye out for him. So we'll get into
Always
it.
do.
This one starts hot open right after the theme song, no cold open.
Spicy open.
Uh-huh. Hank has gotten himself a new John Deere tiller, and the boys are all out front, super excited about it. Dale is pointing out all of its features to Joseph,
And that
uh,
it, if he's
and
not
it
mistaken, came with a
comes
hat,
comes with a hat.
which is a huge selling point for me.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. He waits a second and asks Hank if he can have it. Hank gives it to him, and Dale just replaces it very casually. It's a very fun scene there that Dale is
Yeah.
like excited, but they're gonna videotape this tiller for the first time
Yep.
because they're breaking it in, but Bobby's not there.
Yeah, he's
Bobby
watching
is
PBS.
Bobby is inside being forced to watch PBS by Peggy.
British
Um,
comedy.
and part of this episode is going to be about Peggy being a huge nerd or
Thinking she's a huge
thinking
nerd.
she's a huge nerd.
Trying to be a huge nerd.
She's very proud of the fact that PBS is brought to you by viewers like her.
Viewers like her. She likes to feel important.
Mm-hmm.
I did love that you could hear, like, Bobby has questions about why the man is wearing a dress.
Uh-huh.
And that's such a, like,
That's British comedy.
90s or even like 80s British comedy. And
Mm-hmm.
it eventually became a huge trope in American comedy. Like,
Yeah.
like Big Mama's House,
Man
Mrs.
in a dress. Yeah.
Doubtfire, Man in a Dress, SCTV, and Kids in the Hall in Canada. I feel like every other sketch on Kids in the Hall was one of the dudes in a dress.
Yeah.
Monty Python, I feel like every other sketch was a dude in a dress.
Yep.
So definitely
Mm-hmm.
a,
But
a nice on the nose joke there.
Bobby doesn't necessarily get the comedy at first. And a lot of Bobby this episode is going to be him just like not paying attention or not really getting or caring what's going on and mostly trying to get the right response out of Peggy.
Yeah, just
Like
kind of
he,
like saying what he
mhm,
thinks Peggy wants to hear. The
yes.
chuckle that he gives at the man in the dress, like, "Oh, Posh, I have a run in my stocking," and he
Hmm.
just goes like, huh.
Peggy, well, Peggy looks at him to see if he's laughing. He gives
Yeah,
a fake laugh.
it's
And then
like
as
a
soon as
forced. Yeah,
his face changes as soon as she looks away. It's
yeah,
very funny.
that was good.
Um, So that's going on in the house, but Hank turns the tiller on and he hits something. And he pulls out of the ground a Native American arrowhead and some type of tool. Um, he comes inside and he's kind of complaining about Made in America. He says it needs to stand for something,
Yeah, it's not just a
not like
marketing ploy.
not a marketing ploy like Dolphin Safe.
Yeah.
I thought was pretty funny that um so Peggy identifies it. Hank is kind of sort of interested in it. He's brought it to the garage and he's talking with Bobby's like, what is this other tool that he's got? And Hank has got it tied to like a light string.
Yeah, he just
He's
immediately
using it.
makes it into a garage door pull.
Yeah. It's kind of like a T-shaped tool with a hole in the center of the T where the T meets. And Hank theorizes that it was a weapon used to jam in the back of the skull of the white man and the blood drains out the hole.
Yeah, right out the hole. I did love too whenever Peggy points out that it's an arrowhead. She one mentions that a student choked on one,
Had a field trip.
and Bobby corrects Hank when he says Indian and says that the term is Native Americans, kind of like how you use same-sex partner. And
Instead
they're both
of,
like, Bobby, no.
and then they cut him off. Yeah, they're like, Bobby, no.
You can't say gay.
Yeah, that was very funny.
Yeah, quite good.
Bobby is very seen but not exactly heard in this episode, and he's very funny. And
Bobby's kind of woke. He's kind of
it,
woke in
Bobby
this.
is very woke in the first two seasons for sure. But
Or Texas.
yeah, it's very funny. Um, so they're like, what is this? Hank decides he's going to go figure it out, and he's gonna go ask John Redcorn.
Yeah, and naturally he goes to Dale's
He
house.
goes to Dale's house
So funny. Nancy answers the door in a
in a
towel,
in a towel,
and
and she's
it's
like,
just such an awkward exchange. But
I'm sorry, Shug, Dale's at work. And Hank's like, I know, I'm actually looking for John Redcorn. And Nancy pauses for like, it feels like 5 seconds. They give her
yeah,
such a long pause, and
they
then she's like,
share a knowing look with each other.
yeah, she kind of blushes, and finally she goes, John Redcorn, it's for you.
And my man doesn't even put a shirt on.
No, he's
She's
got a
getting a
towel on
massage,
also. Hank.
but he's not wearing a shirt while he's massaging her.
Nancy has a therapeutic massage today for her migraines.
Yep. Also, voice note, this is the first episode where Jonathan Joss, who is of Parks and Rec fame, takes over for John Redcorn after the tragic passing of Victor Aaron in season one.
Ah, interesting. I didn't realize that this was his first step.
Yep.
Um, so Hank asks John Redcorn, "Do you know what this is?" John Redcorn says this tool is to straighten arrow shafts. And Hank says, "I know this is priceless." Or oh, no, I think John Redcorn says, this to my people, this is a priceless
Yeah.
artifact. And Hank says, "Well, what do you think it's worth to my people?" Like,
Which
I'm trying to
so
sell
funny.
this.
That whole exchange, like when John Redcorn's talking about how priceless it is, his
Yes.
hair starts just like
His
majestically
hair
blowing in the
flows in the
wind.
wind.
And then
Uh-huh.
Hank asks how much he could get for it, and John Redcorn starts to lecture him about how you shouldn't take what belongs to another person. And Nancy
Yes.
calls him
John
from the other,
Redcorn. Yes.
and
So funny.
they're just kind of both like,
Yeah.
okay.
We actually see John Redcorn blush, which is pretty funny. And then yeah.
Yeah,
So Hank is gonna go to Arlen University where there's some rock music playing, and there's
I
some
loved this too.
some kids hacky sacking on campus. And
College.
a guy asks him if he will sign a petition for hemp. And he's like, it's super strong. You can make clothing with it. And Hank's like, why, typical government overreach. Why are they regulating this? And the guy's like, because it's marijuana.
Was
Um,
hemp illegal at this time?
I think so. Still
It
in the United
was?
States, hemp, the agricultural product, might have been illegal in 1997. Still, maybe. I don't know. I don't know that much about the history of hemp's actual legality.
Oh my
Um,
God. Hemp
was it still?
was legalized in 2018,
I
according
was
to
gonna
the
say, I thought it
USDA.
was.
What the fuck?
I thought it was pretty recent.
No, I definitely had clothing that was made of hemp.
You're Canadian. Well, you can import it and sell it. I just don't
Oh
think you could
shit.
grow it
Oh yeah, like as an actual agricultural
as a crop. Yeah.
commodity.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
So Hank goes to the classroom of Professor John Lerner, which is going to be voiced by Maurice LaMarche. LaMarche. Call
Le
me out in the
marche.
comments. Yeah, there you go.
Oui, c'est peut-être c'est peut-être marcher. Oui.
Oui.
He is talking about, I believe, the eruption of Mount Vesuvius
Yes.
and Pompeii, and mentions that people were like instantly killed.
Uh-huh.
That goes against modern findings for the eruption, I believe
Oh.
nowadays, because many of these people, for that gas to be hot enough to instantly vaporize organs, it would have been hot enough to also vaporize any clothing that was worn. But a lot of these people were found with clothing intact. So I believe that the modern perception is that many people suffocated due to ash in the air and death
Ass? Ass in the
ass
air?
in the air, and it took about 15 minutes for many of them to be killed after
Whoa.
the eruption. Many of them were also trying to escape, so they
Oh
had
my
time
gosh.
at least to start to move away. So that's
So
just
he
a
was
little bit of a
wrong.
historical note on the professor.
Oh my God, are you still talking? Will you hit that soundboard for me? Um,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
he might have been wrong about
My
Vesuvius,
God,
but
are you still talking?
thank you, sir. Um, some of the details that the professor is going to bring up are actually semi-accurate in terms of the tribes that would have occupied Texas. They are going to name drop
Yes.
a couple of tribes in Texas, and they are for the most part accurate for the region,
Yes,
which I
but the
thought was a really
Pompeii
nice
thing, the
detail. Yeah.
Pompeii thing, man,
Hmm.
he needs
Um,
to learner about that. He needs to
ooh,
be more of a learner.
not a very good archaeologist. So the class is going to file out in front of Hank, and we've got our typical college Libby types in the class that like there's a
Sexism shirt.
what their breasts. This
Yeah,
gal is going to say,
so good.
yeah, um, very funny classroom scene. But he says like, "Hey, I'm the one who called. I didn't know if I needed to press pound on the voicemail." And the guy was like, "Yeah, you didn't need to press pound." He asks, what are these worth? And the professor says, well, the arrowhead's worthless. Here, you want me to throw it away for you? That's free. Throws it in the trash can.
Dickhead. This guy's a
Dickhead.
dick. He's a fucking asshole.
Hank Hank calls out that this is a shaft straightener, and the guy says it'll be it's worth $10. Here take it. It's all there, type of thing. Or well, I think first he asks this would have been traded for something like a loincloth. And he asks, how much is a
Yeah.
crotch sized piece of leather going for these days? And Hank is very offended, says, I certainly don't know. Um, anyways, he gets $10. Hank gets $10 from him. He was hoping for like 25 or something for a new tiller
50
blade.
is what
50.
John Redcorn said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Hank kind of gets lowballed based off of the John Redcorn
Yeah.
valuation. Um, so he goes home and the professor, ha ha ha, rubs his hands together. He thinks he's got
Yeah,
some good artifacts
he
here,
was
so he puts them in
pulling
a
a
bag.
fast one on our boy.
So we've got a nefarious professor for this episode. He was one of my favorite parts of this app.
Yeah, he was
Um,
great.
Hank comes home. Peggy is very upset with Hank that he has sold this artifact without asking her. Sold the artifacts. She thought these could have been good for Bobby, and she kind of wanted to preserve them culturally because she's pseudo intellectual. Um, says, yeah. Basically, she's upset that Hank didn't ask her and didn't kind of consult her or
Which like
recognize her expertise
valid,
on it.
honestly.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
Even though
valid.
she doesn't have any expertise, like
Yeah,
that's
Hank
it's both
Hank
of
should have
their
asked.
yards.
It's both of their yards.
Yeah.
Bobby and Luann are eating chicken for a class project. Bobby says he's going to make a Tonkawa necklace, which the Tonkawa were in
Yeah,
Texas.
Oklahoma.
They are in Oklahoma as well.
Fort Cobb.
Mhm.
Was he referring to the Tonkawa massacre? Because I did
Um,
some research on that.
no, that would be a Tonkawa. That would be a tribe from the region. And I'm sure at one point I didn't know that there was a Tonkawa massacre. But that
Yeah,
tribe did inhabit Central Texas and also up into Oklahoma, kind of Great Plains,
yeah.
whole stretch region. Same with the Caddo that they referenced earlier. Do you want to tell us about the
Yeah,
Tonkawa massacre at
so
all?
it was after an attack at the Confederate-held Wichita Agency located at Fort Cobb,
Yep,
which is south of present-day Fort Cobb, Oklahoma, near
I've been there.
Anadarko.
I've
I
been
have
there.
also been there. There was a detachment of irregular Union Indian troops made up of Tonkawa's long-hated tribal enemies. They detected a weakness at Fort Cobb due to the Civil War and attacked the agency, home to 300 to 390 members of the Tonkawa, a tribe of sympathetic to the Confederacy. So the Tonkawa were kind of working with the Confederacy at the time, apparently. And a rivaling tribe came in and murdered a bunch of them. So there was a big conflict there. This
Yeah,
could be what the Tonkawa War that Bobby was talking about. Seems like Bobby has a genuine interest in Native
it
American history,
does.
which is kind of
Yes,
cool. I think that comes up later. I think there's like
it
another
does.
episode about Bobby
There's a
doing like a
Thanksgiving
school report.
episode. There's a Thanksgiving episode that's very famous for Bobby and
Nice.
siding with persecuted Native Americans.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, Bobby's on board.
We'll keep an
Uh,
eye out for that one.
Bobby says land back and respect the treaties for sure. Um,
Hell yeah. Based.
so the next day, as Peggy is leaving the house, the professor approaches the house and she says, "It's all right, guys. We don't need another religion," because they're in their suits.
That's
It's
good.
the professor and a student. The professor says, "No, no, no. I'm an archaeologist." And Peggy's like, "Oh, I'm a teacher too." Like she's always trying to flex. And essentially, the professor is going to get her to agree to having an archaeological dig in the yard. He says,
Yeah.
what your husband found wasn't worth a lot, but if we look some more, he calls her a friend of archaeology, and
And she loves
archaeology
that.
needs friends. Yeah,
Yeah.
because she supports PBS. She's supported
Yeah.
by viewers like her.
He can
Um,
really just tell that she's kind of an easy rube.
she's a mark.
Yeah.
She's a
And
mark
can,
for sure.
well, when he's walking away, he's like, I probably could have gotten the title to her house.
Yeah, if I'd have complimented her hair or something, or her glasses. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's being a dick, but
Total dickhead.
yeah. Uh, so Hank's gonna come out and be like, "What was that all about?" And Peggy says, "Yeah, they're gonna do a dig." Hank says that, "Peggy, you owe my lawn an apology." And
I
Peggy just
love
kind of
that.
like walks away and drives off. And Hank's like, "We're
He's
waiting,
serious.
we're waiting." And then as she's driving off, he says, "You can't just think it, you have to say it out loud," as she's like, driving away. But Hank didn't ask her about selling the artifacts, and it's her yard too, so she doesn't have to ask about setting up a dig in the yard.
Yeah, and it kind of seemed like she genuinely didn't realize that it would involve
She didn't read it.
tearing
She
their entire yard apart.
she gets she I think she falls for the flattery of Professor Lerner for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
She definitely does. But next scene, we get Hank and Peggy in bed. They're woken up by some noises. Peggy thinks the house is getting burglarized. We get another nice shot of troll doll hair Peggy.
No, she thinks that either Bill or Dale are mowing,
They're mowing, yes.
and Hank's like, "That's not a mower." But yeah, Peggy's
Mm-mm.
hair looks insane. I love it
It,
when her troll
that's
doll hair is standing
I
up.
I do love that about her. Her hair. But yeah, they look out the window. They see a backhoe digging into the yard, and that's where we get our first commercial break. Is the
And a
dig has
nice big
begun?
no. Hank is yelling so much that he fogs up the window and
No.
then wipes it off and doesn't break the yell. Loved that.
I didn't even catch that. That's funny.
Yeah. Nice good Bois. Shout out to the Bois podcast.
Blah. So then we come back from the break,
The brain, Pinky
the
and
brain, Picky and the break. Uh, Boomhauer is reading the contract. Hank Hank says, "Boomhauer, I didn't understand a word you just said. Dang legalese,"
dang
which is
legalese.
very funny, and I guess proves the point that the guys all know what Boomhauer is saying all the time, even
Yeah.
though the audience hardly does. But he can't understand the legalese. Hank is in disbelief that his own government would be stealing people's land.
Yep.
To this, Bill says, that's kind of like what we did to the Native Americans, and we get
Yeah.
a sad flute playing,
Cries a
uh,
single tear. Do you know what that's a
cries a single
reference to?
tear. Is that the end of? No, I don't know. Is that
No, there
Dances with
was
Wolves? No.
there was a commercial, I believe, in the
Oh
late
yes,
70s that was done by the Keep America Beautiful
I was gonna say it's
campaign.
a litter commercial,
It
right?
was an
Yeah.
anti-littering commercial. I did pull it up. I'll throw down a little video of that playing.
Oh yeah.
It was actually pretty influential for like stopping people from littering as far
Interesting.
as like my research was able to find. I definitely knew of it just from like cultural references.
I'm
I'm
recalling it now that you're bringing it up.
certain
Yeah.
that The Simpsons have also like gagged and referenced that commercial, but I found an article from it was under a year ago, February of 2023, where there was a
Wow.
settlement where a Native American rights group gained the rights to those the to that specific commercial
Interesting.
in as
Hmm.
soon as last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, it
interesting.
aired on Earth Day in 1971.
Wow.
and they gained rights to that commercial a little
Interesting.
under a year ago.
Wow. Dang, deep dive. A lot of facts in this episode. That's what the listeners are here
We
for.
come here for,
The hill heads are here for the nuance, baby.
our nephews.
The nephews. It's that nephew nuance, baby. Um, Hank is mad because they're ripping up his privacy hedge, which reveals Luann in the bathroom,
You
who
know,
said,
even if it's not a
"Hi,
Luann episode,
she's
she's
in
always
there."
got a way to insert herself with just a memorable, funny moment, you
Of
know?
course, Hank is aghast at seeing Luann in a towel. Luann says, "Hank, I hope you don't mind, Uncle Hank. I borrowed your razor." She's shaving her legs with his razor, which is very funny, and I'm
And
sure
this is
Hank.
how she tells him,
Yes,
because I'm sure she's been doing that for a while.
Hank is fed up, and he's going to threaten to sue everybody. He says, "I'm suing you. I'm suing you." He's like,
You
"I need
are sued.
you are consider this. This goes against all of my morals. You are sued." Very funny, but he
That'll
tells
show him.
everybody to write their names down, and he says, my wife's a substitute teacher, so I don't want to see any Seymour Butts or IP Freelies. Um,
Yep.
fun little Futurama tie-in there.
Simpsons, actually, my friend.
Oh
Bart
yeah,
prank calling Moe as early as season one of The Simpsons.
oh
IP
yeah. Does
Freely and Seymour Butts.
Oh, okay, nice. I was gonna say later on in Futurama, I believe they use Seymour asses in the very first
Yeah.
episode of Futurama to who Fry delivers the pizza to. So, classic names. Hank says don't use them.
Yeah, that was the
Uh,
name of Fry's dog, right? Seymour? Or was
yes,
that his
yeah, that
brother?
no, Seymour is the dog. His brother is
Yeah.
Yancey.
Also the name of Principal Skinner in The Simpsons. Seymour.
Interesting.
Yep.
Seymour butts, Seymour asses, IP freely. Hank doesn't want any of it. Um, Peggy is pretty enamored with the professor.
Yeah.
And Peggy is going to suggest inviting the professor to dinner.
I love
Bob,
this line from Hank.
Bobby could learn a lot from him. Um, what's the Hank line you've got? I don't know if I missed
Hank
it.
says, "Don't turn dinner into school. Dinner is one of the few things the boy is good at."
Oh yes, I thought that was pretty funny too. I didn't write it down, but I did catch it. Yeah,
Just love
very
that.
funny. So the professor's at dinner. Peggy is just eating up with him. The professor is talking about how the King Tut exhibit came to his hometown, and
Yeah.
the professor thought, I can do better.
Fucking asshole. They
So
really did a
funny.
good job at writing this guy to be like a pretentious douchebag.
Yes, yes. This is besides, I think, the pilot episode
Oh
where the
yeah,
VHS person is
the
there. This is
scrawny what's it? Big city guy.
Twig Boy. This
Twig
is one
boy.
of the first episodes where we get just a like central villain character. This is a
Yeah.
very interpersonal relationship episode. But this is, a big central villain, and yeah, they wrote him greatly, and Maurice plays him fantastically. But yeah, he
Legend.
says I can do better. He brings up he talks about how uh you know Chunky was a game of that was played
Yep.
in the region, talking about a stone disc. That's Chunky is accurate.
Real game, yeah. I
Yeah,
looked it
real
up as
game.
well.
hmm
Seems
um
fun. Seems cool.
yeah, it seems pretty dope. That was apparently the favorite game among the kind of greater Cahokia type of regions from the Mississippi down to kind
St.
of Texas and through Oklahoma.
Louis-ish. Yeah.
Um, Spiro Mounds in Spiro, Oklahoma is a cool site there in the region as well. It's
Mhm.
a Cahokia type of people. So big chunk of people from St. Louis all the way down to Texas kind of played chunky. I know a lot of people associate lacrosse kind of as like the Native
Huh.
American sport, but there's also chunky is very popular.
Interesting.
Yeah. Bobby doesn't actually care though what's being said. Bobby says, tell me more, Professor. Right, Mom?
Right, Mom?
Right, Mom? It's
Yeah.
the professor talks about how his first dig. I think he invites them on the dig, and then he talks about his own first dig.
Yeah, he
Uh,
invites Peggy. He's very obviously just trying to cuck Hank.
yes,
Like he's just hitting on his wife in
yes.
front of him.
He talks about he remembering his first dig. He says the Finnis Frost site, which actually was an archaeological dig in Texas.
Mhm.
There's an archaeological site called the Finnis Frost site, which is where he got this Wahasha bracelet,
Which
which he
I looked
shows
into
off.
that, couldn't find
Also,
anything about a Wahasha bracelet.
no, that this I think is a little bit of a made up thing,
Yeah.
but the professor says that a brave would give it to a girl that he fancied when he was going off to hunt or to war. So it's it's kind of a courtship bracelet,
Yeah.
so to speak. But this one is a replica, of course. But
Because it doesn't go with the sweater.
yeah. Um, the next day, yeah, of course, it
So
doesn't go with
fun.
the sweater.
And Hank,
Uh,
he has that nice little aloha joke. He
mhm.
says like Wahasha means something something, and Hank is like kind of like aloha, which means
Means,
hello and goodbye.
anyways,
Get,
aloha.
get the fuck out of my house, man.
Shoves him out the door. Yeah. The next day, there's a field trip in the yard, which Peggy organized. And Peggy essentially spends all day out in the yard. We cut back to Hank in bed. Peggy's coming in late to bed. He's like, "You missed action news and action sports,
Half of action weather.
yeah, half of action weather." Um, they're like, "Yeah, we've been digging in the yard all day." And Peggy says, "Oh, by the way, Bobby knows his cat didn't run away." Pretty funny.
So they found a cat skeleton.
They found a cat skeleton in the yard. They are kind of woken up, or they're trying to go to sleep, but there's a light shining through the window. Peggy opens the curtains and is like, "Look, look, Hank, stadium lights, just like the Cowboys use. Now the professor can dig all night." And Hank is like, "What? The Cowboys would cherish my lawn."
So Hank is a Cowboys fan.
Yes. Oh yeah. Canonically. Um, but yeah, Peggy is like, happy that Bobby's got this role model. Hank is like, I'm his role model. And we start to see
Yes.
Hank getting, he's obviously agitated by his yard being dug up, but we
But
start to
now,
see
yeah,
Hank get agitated about the
this
archaeologist's presence in
cucking
Peggy and
him.
Bobby's life. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
getting cucked in all but
He's
name.
getting cucked hard.
Yeah,
I also love that Hank mentions that there's a chance of rain, and Peggy's like, "Oh, I should go tell the professor he left the top
he
down
left
on
the
his
on
Saab,
his sob.
which has leather seats in the Saab."
Yes.
That's impressive to her that he
Uh-huh.
drives a
He
Saab,
drives a Saab.
a convertible Saab.
There's a dude that drives a convertible Saab in my neighborhood.
Oh yeah, is he
Yeah.
75 years old?
Yes. He walks he walks this he walks this teeny tiny Yorkie without a leash.
Hell
He
yeah.
just he just carries a golf club and the teeny tiny Yorkie goes all over people's
Golf
yards and just
club to
shits.
hit people
No, I think
as
it's to help.
self-defense?
Yeah, honestly I think it's defense
Ooh.
against other dogs, but it's like, bro, put your dog on a leash. Yeah.
Yeah, leash your dogs, people. As an owner of a reactive dog,
Yeah.
this
Even
is a
if they're
public service announcement.
teeny tiny ancient Yorkies,
Yeah,
leash your dogs, boomers.
yeah.
Stop driving Saabs. Uh,
Leash your dog and stop driving tall.
but right before our next commercial break, Hank is railing on about how he's Bobby's role model, not that bracelet wearing egghead. We get a shot of Peggy with the Wahasha bracelet on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
he's given
symbol
the bracelet to
of
Peggy.
cuckdom,
Oh my gosh, yes.
as it were.
So the first two acts I think ramp up pretty nicely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tension building.
Honestly, the
Uh,
more we're talking about this episode, the more it's growing on me.
yeah, same here. I my first watch through, admittedly I had to do my first watch through like 3 times because we had the brand new baby and
Ah,
I was like,
yeah.
I'll watch some King of the Hill while
Don't
I'm
let
giving him a bottle.
don't let the baby distract you
Look at me
from your work.
using my baby as an excuse for things. Um,
Wait, hold on.
yes. Uh, so the next day, Hank is talking after the commercial break. It's Hank is talking to Dale, and Dale is like,
Giving
I'd
him
be
advice.
suspicious too. All guys get suspicious of, sometimes. We see Nancy coming out of the side of the house with a tennis racket and a suitcase.
Yeah.
And Dale is like, Nancy's going to Corpus Christi for some migraine conference, and I'm suspicious as hell. Uh,
John
thankful,
Redcorn pulls up playing I Feel
thankfully,
Like Making Love.
Dale says, thankfully, John Redcorn's going with her to keep an eye on
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
It's just so funny. They're
And
really
the fact that that song is playing when he pulls up, like
with the Jeep.
they're not even being remotely subtle.
No, they're the
It's
first couple
so
of
funny.
seasons. It's really that Nancy's infidelity is mostly a punchline. It doesn't really get this that storyline doesn't get a lot more teeth until later on when it starts. So they really add a lot to
Yeah.
that. It's really punchline in these first seasons, but this episode is so funny for
Yeah.
that Dale's actually getting cucked and Hank
Yeah.
is getting intellectually romantically
Intellectually
cucked,
cucked.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot
Um
more Nancy so far this season. I like that.
yes. But Hank is finally getting kind of fed up. And he's going to be up in the garage late at night, kind of nefariously working on this fake artifact. He's got these chicken
Yeah.
bones. He's like using a blowtorch and a vice, and Bill is going to pop up out of nowhere in the
And
middle of the night in
he
Hank's
smelled the
garage.
chicken.
Yeah, he smelled the chicken. He came running. Um,
And he suggests killing this guy, basically,
yes, yes, he suggests poisoning this guy, which is
with
what he does
arsenic.
with arsenic, which is what he does, with possums.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, Hank's not going to do that. It's
He
so
said that
funny.
would be murder,
That
Bill.
would be murder, Bill. He's out in the yard in the dig site. He places this artifact in the ground, and then he gets startled by Bill again, who is leaving his garage with chicken and I think some beers also.
Yeah, he just went in there and took the rest of the
It's just
chicken and snagged a beer and went home. Honestly, legend.
so funny from Bill. So hilarious. Um, but yeah, the next day the professor's digging. Hank kind of standing over him, and he's like, "Did you catch anything today?" And he's like, "No." It's like, well, maybe you should, try something different, like
Yeah.
try over there.
So
And
subtle.
the professor definitely catches on, like, oh, I see
Yeah.
what's going on. But then, shockingly, Peggy says, "I've found something," and Hank freaks out because
Yeah.
it seems that Peggy has found his fake. Um, and the
Because
professor
Hank
kind,
hit it like a moron and Peggy's kind of a moron.
yeah,
Also, Peggy's just kind of dressed like Ellie Sattler from Jurassic Park a little bit
yeah,
in this scene.
she's got her dig site
Laura
clothes
Dern.
on. She's got her Bermuda shorts
Yeah.
and her button up with her hat
Her
and all.
like Indiana Jones style hat. She's giving Major Dern energy.
Yes. Um, so the professor is like, "Why don't you tell us what that is, Peggy?" And she's like, "I, think this is, from an Apache warrior made from the finger bones of his enemies." And he's like, "How'd you come to that conclusion?" And she's like, "Well, they're about as long as finger bones, essentially."
Bruh.
But then the professor is going to kind of sort of publicly shoot her down and shame her,
Sort
and
of.
really, really humiliates Peggy.
Yeah. Makes her
He
look like a
asks,
damn fool.
yeah, and she's like, "Oh, haha, it's because I'm not an archaeologist." So he really shatters Peggy here,
He
which is kind of the
essentially has all of the students explain what it really is, and they can immediately tell it's chicken bones filed down with a belt sander, and
and a blowtorch and
and
kite
they
string.
use some kite string.
And he's
Yeah.
like, "Ha, they're not so smart. I didn't use kite string. I used baling wire,
Yep.
baling twine." Um, Peggy, I think, realizes, she's like, "Oh, Hank, don't tell me you were jealous." And Hank says,
Yeah.
"No, no, I wasn't jealous. I was just mad because you were spending all your time with that guy, and I wanted you to spend your time with me. Jealousy
Yeah.
had nothing to do with it."
He kind of like coyly kicks some dirt and just kicks dirt in her fucking face.
I thought that was very cute, and Peggy is flattered, and she says, "Oh, Hank, I have something in my eye, but also I am crying." So it's a
And
very
then
sweet moment there
yeah,
at the end.
he goes to help her out of the diggy hole and
Uh-huh.
she takes off the bracelet and they're back on the same side. And
Yep.
then my favorite moment of the episode happens.
Yes. Yes, the archaeologist is, starting to get out of the hole, and Hank pushes him back in. And then we just get a repeating of them pushing him back into the hole, and he
So
just
good.
keeps trying to get out. Peggy eventually pushes him back into the hole. Bobby is going to push him back into the hole. Oh no, it's the archaeologist after Peggy is cool with being tricked. The archaeologist says, "I could have looks like I could have scored with your wife for the price of a fake bracelet."
Yep.
And that's why Hank pushes him into the hole,
Yep.
because Hank the archaeologist says like, I could have gotten with your wife if I would have tried harder, and you were,
Yeah.
you're such a big idiot. So
Yeah.
Hank pushes him into the
Which
hole.
that's kind of a warranted reason to push someone into a hole.
That's definitely a warranted reason to push
Yeah.
somebody into
And I loved
a
how he
small hole.
he's like, I get it. You're stronger than me. And Hank
I
just
get it.
continuously is pushing him. And then Peggy gets one. And then
Uh-huh.
it fades into the credits. And then Bobby
Bobby
does one.
gets one. Yes.
They all push him into the hole.
Yeah.
A good ending. Kind of an
Yeah.
abrupt ending, but a good one
A little
nonetheless.
a little abrupt. It was a simple ep. I think they weren't trying to make some huge statement about like men's morality or men's mental health. It was just,
Yeah, it
it was a
was,
jealousy episode.
yeah,
Very funny Nancy and Dale allegory
yeah.
there. It was a
Well
nice.
structured, well
It was light.
paced.
Hmm.
Should we jump right into
Yeah, dude,
fucking
we should take it out
figuring
back.
it out? Should we
We
head to
should
the alley, brother?
take it out back, brother.
All right.
I'm gonna buy you a drink.
Oh my.
This is a segment of the show where we take it out back and we rank the episode because art deserves to be ranked and given a score. But we rank it out of a six pack. We rank it out of a 6-pack of Alamo
And it
beers.
deserves to be rated by us.
Yes, we are the authority on the matter, actually.
Bow
But yeah,
down.
this episode did grow on me a lot. I thought the pacing was very good. There were a lot of very good kind of throwaway jokes. There were a lot of good jokes that tied directly into the story. I thought that our boy, what's his name?
Maurice Lamarche.
Maurice. Yeah,
Yes.
he crushed it. Good job with the vocal acting chops. He
Yes.
did a good job of playing a dickhead.
I think he's on more episodes as well, but his list of credits is so extremely long. I kind of was finding it hard to find like where King of the Hill was at and how many episodes he's had.
Yeah.
But yeah, very prolific. So
I would like to see this character again.
yeah, honestly, I was like, he could be a fun returning character,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see.
I liked that there was a central villain to this that kind of drove the
Yep.
conflict. It was very interpersonal relationship, and yeah, it was nice to have one kind of big bad guy for the episode this
Yep.
time around.
Yeah, Bobby was funny in it, even though he played a small part. Luann had some good lines. We got some good stuff from Dale. We got some good stuff from Bill. We even had a nice, funny interaction with Boomhauer. We had some good Nancy and John Redcorn. Kind of
Yeah.
had it all for
This
an
one this
episode.
one did grow on me.
Yeah.
I think I'll go ahead and talk about my rating. I think
Yeah, what you
originally
got?
going into this episode, I thought this is a solid 3, right? Like a good example of like a middle of the road episode. But I think I'm
Okay.
gonna go ahead and bump it up to 4.
Going
It's
4.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's not quite a 5er for me. It wasn't, like super duper hilarious, and
I feel that.
it wasn't like a gem. I don't feel like it would be like if someone was like, "What episode should I
Yeah.
watch of King of the Hill?" This wouldn't be one I'd recommend, but I thought it was really solid, so I'm going with
Yeah.
a good solid 4.
Not a huge standout, but I would say still a W. I think I'm right there with you. And I'm going to pop open 4 as well. We're on the same page here. New year, new us,
Same
same page, new babies.
Let's go.
Sick. Should we do our final segment?
Let's
My
do
guy.
it. Let's do it.
This is the Hill King segment. This is the portion of the show where we crown the Hill of the King of the Hill, the MVP of the episode, whoever we thought stood out the most in our hearts and our minds. You drove the mower, but you also just had a
drove.
baby. and I would like your daddy ass to have first pick. So I
Oh,
want to cede to
thanks,
you
sir.
and yours and your son and your betrothed. And I would like to know who your Hill King is first.
That means he's still thinking of his Hill King. He needs me to go first so he can decide.
No,
This one,
I was being nice.
he's being nice. I think for this one, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pick the villain. I'm gonna take Professor Lerner as the king of the episode.
Nice, nice. I
He
like that choice.
he drove the conflict of it. He was, kind of the main character of the episode, so to speak, even though he was a huge douchebag who drives a Saab.
He did a good job of being a douchebag with a sob.
Yeah, I think this was a really great example of like where, there's single episode kind of big bad villains. I really liked the professor. I thought he said a lot of really funny stuff.
Yeah,
Uh
solid lines,
so
solid
yeah,
cucking efforts
I
for
am
sure.
taking Professor Lerner.
Nice. A guest
Yes.
star with the Hill King. I think that's the first time, other than
Maybe,
Wee
yeah.
Matanye and the Ant Queen.
Because
At
neither of
least
us
it's a
picked Willie
mortal,
Nelson.
mortal human being this time.
Yeah.
I think I am going to go with someone with a little bit more of a minor role, but you know that I'm a chuckleman and I like to go with my biggest chuckle. I
Yes.
think I'm going to go with John Redcorn.
John
I
Redcorn.
think I'm going to give it the first John Redcorn
Wow. First
Hill
John
King.
Redcorn pick.
I'm really enjoying that dynamic in my first rewatch of the series. There's a lot
Mhm.
that I had forgotten, but I always remember finding that funny. And this was a nice instance of like the first time that we really get like a knowing exchange between a character and Nancy that like I know what's going on here.
Yeah.
And then John Redcorn coming out without a shirt on is just so fucking funny. And him
Yeah.
picking her up, playing I Feel Like Making Love in his cool ass Jeep, and Dale just being none the wiser.
I liked that this seemed to be one of the first episodes where he has a little bit more, like he gives a little bit more to the story than just being
The Native
Nancy's
American
the
guy
Native
who is
American guy who's
fucking
like
Dale's wife. Yeah.
he tells Hank like this is sacred to my people, and like we start to see more from him. So yeah, I thought you were gonna pick Bobby, honestly.
That was
Um,
yeah. I almost went Bobby. Honestly, I almost went Luann. Uh,
yeah, yeah, I thought that for a half a second when we were
yeah.
talking about Luann.
Yep. But yeah, I'm gonna go John Redcorn, and I'm gonna lock that in. And
Nice, good picks, good app,
first Hill Kings 2024.
fun app. Um, I have a quick note unrelated to the episode here at the end. This is a nephew shout out.
Hey.
To our nephews, our listeners. This is a reference to my actual real nephew Benjamin. What up, Ben? Ben, my brother and Benny Boy called me the other day whenever they were listening to an episode, and we were just talking about it. And my brother Ben was like, "Chris, who's that other guy that you do the podcast with?" I was like, "That's my friend Brad." And so I asked him, I was like, "Ben, who do you think's better, me or Brad?"
He said me. Come on, Ben.
He said you. Yeah, he definitely
Hey,
said you.
Ben.
Yeah,
My
so
man.
my own nephew cucked me.
Wow. I am the king of the nephews.
King of the nephews over here. Yeah.
Love it.
So shout out to Ben.
A
Hopefully,
huge shout out
maybe
to
you're still
Ben.
listening. Maybe you're not. Kyle, turn it off. Don't let your child listen
Yeah,
to
it's
this.
pretty deep in the episode to say that, but all right.
We'll see if they're actually listening all the way
Yeah.
through or not.
Yeah, you got to make it pretty far to get to
Yep.
this point.
I just thought
Well,
that was funny. I
cool.
thought you might like to hear that
Love
since
a
we're
good
on the
nephew
topic of
shout out.
nephews.
Thanks to all of our nephews for watching and listening to this here episode. That will do it. We will be back probably next week. Who knows? Could be a
Oomst.
little more than a week. I don't really have any just ties to making this as consistent as I thought I needed to, but it'll be as
Having
consistent as
fun.
we need it to be because we're having a good time. We
You
are
tell us,
fathers.
nephews.
Yeah.
You You tell us, nephews.
But the next episode, when it does come out, will be episode 4, Halloween.
It's a good one.
A little spooky time. This
It's a
is an
good one.
episode because I'm a big Halloweensman. We talked about the Pinky and the Brain special. This is an episode that I have always loved of King of the Hill.
It's very funny.
It's been a long time since I've rewatched it, so I'm excited to give it another peak. It kind of sucks that we're not doing it around Halloween time, but it's
Yeah.
never too early or too late to be a little spooky.
So come back next week, next following week.
Let's say next week.
Who knows? Next week, next time,
Next
nephews.
time on the next episode.
On the next episode.
Yeah, but thanks for watching. As always, go check us out on TikTok, Instagram. Follow us if you are listening on Apple or Spotify. Go check us out on YouTube. I have been putting a more concerted effort into adding screenshot references
The
into
visuals
the
are good,
episodes.
folks.
So it'll be almost like you're watching along with us. I've been putting little animations, more visual gags,
Come
fucking
use
around.
Come use another one of your senses. Don't just
Yeah.
use your ears, you lazy bum.
Use your eye
eyes.
holes as well. But if you want to listen on Spotify and Apple, we still love you. We do
Yeah,
have
you do
more
you.
listeners there. Like
Hello.
and subscribe, share the show with your friends, and as always, we always wrap up the episode.
Oh, send us
saying
memes.
this. Send
us
us
memes.
Yes,
Send
and
us
shout out
memes.
to Bois, the
Shout out
boys,
to Bois
Rusty
again,
and
yeah.
Mike. Would love to have them on the show. Maybe we'll get them on this season.
Yeah, could be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Send us memes. Shout out to Bois. Come
And
back
as
next
we
time,
always
nephews.
say at the end of the episode, together in unison.